Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I want to talk about chapter 5, sources of financing for new venture. So basically, this module will be covering about the key sources of finance for a new business venture and financing needs at different business development phase and introducing debt and equity financing implication for a new own venture. Okay, financing new venture. In financing a new venture creation and growing the new business, an entrepreneur can tap into two key financing approaches, whether it is from a debt financing or equity financing. So debt financing is involve business owner borrow a fixed sum of money from the lender, banker, from any financing institution, which have to pay back over a period of time with additional charges whereby they need to pay for the interest or any administrative fees. Qualifying for the borrowing often requires some form of collateral, such as land, building, or safety net to protect the financier in case of non-payment, but must fulfill some qualification that are being imposed by the bank or the finance institution. Equity financing primarily involves the sales of a percentage of business to an investor in exchange for capital. Parties who provide equity financing expect to earn yearly dividends from business profits and high return on investment upon selling back the shares after a period of business growth. It's different compared to the debt financing. In return, they need to pay fixed monthly installment together with the interest for every month. But for the equity financing, the investor will, in return, they will get the dividend or the profit from the whatever they've been invest to the business. Okay, the implication for debt or and equity financing, the requirement for debt, it is expect the business that would like to borrow the money is a business that have profitability, meaning to say the business is have a market feasibility and will get profit uh, as much as they can. But in equity, they expect high growth potential business. In terms of ownership, the ownership is 100% by the owner of the business or the entrepreneur itself. But for the equity, they must give away some of the percentage of ownership to the shareholder. Okay, rate interest may be high, payment begin almost immediately. For example, like you made a loan on January, you commence a business on January and you make a loan on January, and right after the February you need to start to pay back to the bank the monthly installment. Whereas for the equity, no pressure to make early return because the return will be made once your business generate profit. Okay, predictability, predictable repayment. This one is unpredictable payment and exit. Oversight, minimal oversight. Investor need reporting may get involved in decision making because they are act as a shareholder. That is why they have power to make a decision to the business. Cash flow, monthly payment deplete cash flow because every month you have to pay to the lender or to the bank. Dividend payment depend on profitability. If there's a profit, then the dividend will be issued. Risk, there's always a risk for losing the asset treated as collateral. Means you have the collateral will be hand to the bank, and the investor take on almost all the risk. So the risk will be lesser compared to this to the debt. Okay, source of finance for a new own business can come from both internal and external sources. So basically, there are seven source of finance, namely personal fund, family and friends, angel financing, bank term loans, venture capital financing, government loan and grants, and bootstrap financing. Okay, let's go to the first one. Okay, the first is entrepreneur-owned funds. All new ventures start with an initial capital contribution by the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur's own contribution or personal fund in regard as equity financing that is reflected in the ownership of the business. So basically, for the entrepreneur-owned fund, the entrepreneur itself contribute the capital, the initial capital for their business. Okay. Secondly, fund from family and friends. It is not uncommon for a new entrepreneurs. We borrow the money from our friend and family as a capital for our business startup. Okay, the contribution from family and friends are often limited but more easily obtainable at the early stages of business startup because the family and friends know the entrepreneur very well. They want to support his undertaking, especially when they think the business has growth potential. Friend and family capital contribution is likely to be in the form of equity financing that give ownership in the business. Okay, third we have business angel. From the word itself, angel, we know that business angel is someone that can provide the capital for the business startup. In return, for equity in the business. That means in return, the a business angel will get dividend from the profit that they invest. Most angel investors are successful entrepreneurs and retired executives that want to get involved in helping small startups succeed by offering private financing and sometimes valuable expertise and experience as well. Okay, that means uh, not only they provide the capital, but this business angel is someone that have a well experience in business administration. So they will also provide the mentoring and also the business advice to the startup entrepreneur. Angels assume high risk by providing capital at very early stage of business startup and normally to look for 30 to 40% desired ROI for 5 to 7 times ROI. Angel also have to patient in realizing their ROI. Okay, business angel invest their fund and sometimes into groups or network to share information and contract, for example, like a virtual investment circle or MBAN, Malaysian Business Angel Network. So basically, a business angel is someone who a rich person who fund startup in exchange for equity or convertible debt. Okay, next we move to the fourth finance sources, which is a venture capital financing. Venture capital can be defined as a pool of equity capital that come from different individuals or groups of individuals who want to invest in high growth business for high return. Unlike angel investor that invest in their own fund, venture capital is invested by firm or company that use other people money. So it act like a pool, okay, where any people or company that would like to invest their money to any new business or any new startup, they will put their money in this venture capital company. For example, in Malaysia, we have Cradle, we have TH Capital, we have RHL Ventures. While venture capital funds are found in a diverse range of business sectors, they tend to focus on high potential, innovation, and technology center business. The amount of capital can start at 1 million for early growth financing and extend to 20 million at later stage. provide managerial and technical expertise alongside the capital investment. That means they only not only provide the capital, they will also provide the mentoring, training, and so on. For number five, we have a bank term loan from the commercial banks. For example, like in Malaysia, for commercial banks, we have CIMB, RHB, Public Bank, Bank Islam, Maybank, and so on. So bank loan is in the form of debt financing that require the business to repay the loan in progressive payment, which additional interest fees will be imposed. Banks are generally cautious about approving loan, particularly to the new venture, because for the new venture, normally they have no experience and less knowledge. That is why it's actually hard for the commercial bank to approve the new ventures loan. Once the business has progressed and more stable, definite a financial record to show repayment capabilities, bank will be more viable source of finance. That is why normally at the first stage, the business owner will use their own money or their saving, or perhaps they borrow from their family and friends. And when their business is getting stable, they will for the expansion they will get loan from the bank. Okay, entrepreneurs wanting to access bank loan need to have some sort of tangible collateral or surety, or we normally call it as a guarantor. Okay, must have a guarantor before they borrow the money from the bank. Okay, collateral can be in the form of the asset of business, for example, like land, equipment, business premise, or building. Entrepreneurs' personal asset, house, landed property, vehicle, and guarantor asset. It depends on the form of business, whether you are conducting sole proprietorship or partnership or whatnot. Okay, in case of non-payment of any loan, the bank holds the right to forfeit the collateral to cover outstanding amount. Okay, so the bank have a right to what we call it, to get the asset that owned by the entrepreneur to cover the non-payment loan. Okay, this the risk lah uh when you apply loan from the bank. Okay, number six, we have government loan and grants. Okay, government offer financial assistance in the form of loan and grants at all level of business development. Government financial assistance serve more an economic or social development purpose than for purpose of profitable return on investment. For that reason, financing from government sources normally incur a comparatively lower interest rate or fees for loan, or are in the form of one-time cash payout with no repayment necessary. That means the interest imposed by the government loan will be lower compared to the commercial bank. And then if they provide you one-time cash payout, normally there will be no repayment necessary. That means they will provide in the form of grant. Okay. Government financial assistance are primarily channeled through public agencies established to serve specific purpose or sector. For instance, they use the Cradle Fund, Chamberhut, they pump money to this Cradle Fund, and the entrepreneur may apply the fund through this Cradle Fund. For example, like in Cradle Fund is an agency under Ministry of Finance. They're responsible to manage 100 million fund dedicated to funding innovation and technology ventures in the country. So if your business is based on the technology, it's a tech business, you may go for Cradle Fund, because the Cradle Fund is focusing on the funding innovation and technology venture. Okay, government also tap into established financial institutions like commercial bank to manage and distribute specific financial assistance. So it depends on the budget. Okay, for example, budget 2020, budget 2021. Okay, depend on the government budget on certain year. For example, fund is channeled through commercial bank like Maybank, CIMB Bank, and FM Bank in providing special loan scheme like this Scheme Usahawan Siswaza for graduate entrepreneurs, or Scheme Prosper for entrepreneurs in the retail service sector. So from the word itself, Scheme Usahawan Siswaza. Siswaza means for the university graduates only. Okay. Number 7, we have bootstrap financing. Bootstrap financing is an internal financing approach that derives from conserving cash in the business operations by utilizing various facilities offered by supplier and vendor. Bootstrapping is particularly important at startup and early stage of business when that financing is difficult to qualify for and too much equity financing can erode entrepreneur control over the business. This form of financing requires the entrepreneur to understand what facilities are available and be able to convince the various suppliers to grant you the facilities. Okay, for example, like this, the bootstrapping come from the customer, and then you get a return from the customer revenue, and then you grow your business, and then you have a cash flow, and then you reinvest to the business, and then when your business become more stable, you will have a viable business model to have a better customer, and then you grow. That means you will grow your business by using your own profit without asking external sources. Okay, that means the growing happen from the internal sources. Okay, from the personal saving, and then you expand money from time to time without wasting your money to the something that unnecessary. You use the profit to reinvest to your business, and then from time to time your business will grow and grow and grow. Okay, bootstrap financing can include in terms of trade trading, obtain goods from supplier and only pay in 30, 60 or 90 days, hence allowing the business or trade with the goods without expending valuable cash upfront. Second, we have supplier discount. When you purchase in a bulk purchase, you will get a promotion or discount when you purchase in a high quantity. And then we have a consignment financing, an arrangement between supplier and seller of product, under which the supplier only receive payment for the product after it has been transported to or sold by the seller, can save cost on storage and paying up upfront. That means if the product sold, then only the seller can pay to the consignment. Okay, this is the summary of those 7 financial finance sources. Okay, the business development phase, while financing can come from several sources, at each phase of business development, different sources features more prominently than another. So basically, we have 3 phases, which is pre-startup and startup. Second, we have early growth, and lastly, we have full growth and expansion. The financing sources at each phase of development is often influenced by relative balance between risk and potential return on investment at particular phase. Okay, the pre-startup is just before the business is officially launched, and funds are needed to create the business entity and prepare basic resources. The startup phase is the point of time when the business formally open its door for business and begin operation. The pre-startup and startup phase are normally period of high expenditure and low sales, if any, and no profit. This makes this early stage of new venture but very risky for not only the founding entrepreneur but more so for outside investors. That is why it's hard for the commercial bank to approve a loan for this startup business, because at early stage they have a very high expenditure but low sales. Financing at pre-startup phase is categorized as seed financing, whereas financing at startup phase is called as startup or first level financing. We have 3. first level, second level, and third level financing. The main source of seed startup financing is primarily from the entrepreneur-owned fund and supplement with fund from family and friends. May be able to attract angel investment, but this more likely at the startup stage and only after funding entrepreneurs and or business and friend have put in initial investment as a show of commitment to the business. Government financing assistance will feature consistently throughout the different stages of growth, while bootstrap financing will start to play an important role from the startup phase onward. Okay, early growth financing. This is the phase where marketing efforts are intensified to produce sales that can be least covered costs. Financing at this stage refer to the second level financing. And first point, where total strangers are likely consider financing or investing in the business. The second key level financing sources is a business angel. Angel investors are valuable at this stage not only for the fund but also for the business expert, contract, and credibility. Venture capital financing will also come in at this point. Okay, normally at this point, the entrepreneur can cover their break-even point, whereby the cost equal to the sales. There will be no profit yet at this stage. Okay, full growth and expansion financing. At this stage, the business is poised to take off and is showing profit from established operation and growing market acceptance. With a much better capability to service loan payment from growing sales and profit, the entrepreneur may now go for third level financing, primarily in the form of bank term loan. Debt financing through the bank loan will allow the entrepreneur to finance growth but having to sacrifice any more control in the business through equity financing. So basically, this is the summary of the sources and the stages of financing for new venture, whereby we have the pre-startup. Normally, pre-startup and startup, we seek for the own contribution, family and friend funds. Okay, for the early growth, we go for the business angel and financing. And then we also can rely on the venture capital financing. Okay, and then we also have full growth and expansion. This is the third level financing. We may apply for a business for the bank loan for the business expansion, and we may also have government financing scheme and bootstrap financing. Okay, so that's all for this chapter. For the tutorial, please list and explain the available government financing scheme for startup in Malaysia. You only have to list and explain 3 grants and 3 loans that initiated by the government to help the startup in Malaysia. So basically what you need to do is list and then you explain how to apply, what are the requirements imposed by the government, and then how much they can give to the entrepreneurs, and any information, the relevant information you can put in your report. So the maximum pages is 5 pages only. Okay, so thank you.